Let me encourage you to take out your sermon supplement. And if you'll notice, our lesson this evening has a rather long title, but really it makes a short point. And we're talking this evening about non-offensive things a Christian can do in an easily offended world. It does not take very long in this world to realize that you can offend somebody without ever intending to do it. Whether you're talking about politics and wherever you may be on that, where you're talking about politics, wherever you may be when it comes to your favorite sports team and who you think should win the Super Bowl, what you think about the weather, what you think about this or think about that, it can be easy to offend another person. I mentioned in my Bible class this morning something that I think we see in society. It's a hypersensitivity. Man, if everything doesn't go my way, then I get sensitive to it. You know, if everything doesn't happen just the way I think it should happen, then I get sensitive to it. So we have this understanding that we're going to encounter situations, times, moments, when we're going to encounter individuals, and there's going to be this possibility that we could offend them. Now, what's a Christian to do? Well, we can't walk around in a bubble, can we? We can't be a people who hide our head in the sand and think, well, I'm just going to ignore everything around me, not say anything in the hopes that I don't offend anybody. We're not going to lock ourselves away in the closet in our house and never venture outside. We can't do those things, but there is something we can do. In fact, there are several things that we can do. Remember, we're given the task of taking the gospel to the world. And regardless of how we present that gospel, regardless of how we say it, some people can easily take offense to us saying, can I tell you about a man named Jesus who changed my life and I believe he can change yours? The littlest thing can offend people. I want to give you this evening some non-offensive things that a Christian can do when it comes to working with those around you, whether it's friends or family members or strangers or co-workers. These are some suggestions, some non-offensive things that can be done. Here's the first one. A Christian can follow the golden rule. Remember, these are things that we can do so we don't offend somebody. A Christian can follow the golden rule. Matthew chapter 7 and verse 12. Do unto others as you would have them do to you. Treat other people the way you would want them to treat you. Interact with people in a way in which you can say, I want to give them my best. I want to treat them the best I possibly can. I want to do what I can to encourage them, strengthen them. I want to express my love to them. I want to do whatever it is that I possibly can to treat them in a way that I would hope they would treat me. Doesn't mean they will. Hold on. But I want to treat them in a way that I would want them to treat me. Galatians chapter 6 and verse 10 talks about doing good to all people. Go over there and notice what Paul says. Galatians chapter 6. Galatians chapter 6 and verse 10, Paul says these words, therefore, as we have opportunity, let us do good to all, especially to those who are of the household of faith. As we have opportunity, let's be a people who go about doing good. It's the rare person who will become offended if you say, how can I help you? It's the rare person who will get offended if you say, please, take my seat. It's the rare person who will get offended if you say, is there anything I can do for you today to help you? Just let me know. I'm willing to help. We need to be individuals who treat others the same way that we would want them to treat us. So that's a non-offensive thing that we can do. Secondly, a Christian can be good to people who don't like them. And I put this little caveat down there, and to people you don't like. One of the things that we deal with in this world is a double-sided coin. Sometimes there are people who just don't like us. It doesn't matter what we do. It doesn't matter how hard we try. It doesn't matter what effort we make. There are going to be some people who we are going to encounter who simply say, I don't like them. I don't like them. Now, I wouldn't say that's always complete strangers. I would say it could be friends that we have, quote-unquote friends, family members that we have. It could be a multitude of different people who, for some reason or another, simply don't like us. And then the other side of the coin is true as well. sometimes there's people that we don't get along with. Sometimes there's some people that we don't like. Well, what can we do? How can we handle it? Well, here's the first thing. We understand, first of all, that people have conflict. That's going to happen in this life. But conflict doesn't have to mean war. Go over to Romans chapter 12. Let me give you a couple examples here. Romans chapter 12, beginning in verse 17. Paul says this. He says, repay no one evil for evil. Have regard for good things in the sight of all men. If it is possible, verse 18, as much as it depends on you, live peaceably with all men. Now, I'll finish the passage. We're going to go down to verse 21, but I want you to notice, and I like to call it this, I say it all the time, personal responsibility. This is personal responsibility in verse 18. I have to do something. I have to act a certain way. I have to give myself over to a certain attribute. And he says, if it's possible, as much as it depends on you, live peaceably with all men. It should be our effort. It should be our goal. It should be the desire that we have. I don't want to be at war with everybody around me. I don't want to be fighting with everybody around me. I don't want to be in disagreements with everybody around me. You know, what can I do? How can I, as a person, bring peace into this situation? He says this, beloved, do not avenge yourselves, but rather give place to wrath, for it is written, vengeance is mine, I will repay, says the Lord. Therefore, if your enemy is hungry, feed him. If he's thirsty, give him a drink. For in so doing, you will heap coals of fire on his head. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. What can I do that's a non-offensive thing to those who might not like me? I can help them. I can help them. I can help meet a need that they might have. I can help with a situation that they might be engaged in. I can help them in some way that will strengthen them, that will help them to be better, that will help make their day better, their situation better, whatever it may be. I know that coworker, I know they don't like me very much. Can I help with some of their workload? I know that family member that I have that just always seems to keep me at arm's distance. Is there something that I can do to try to work towards us having a better relationship? It's a non-offensive thing when you say, listen, I'm going to do good to those who may not be doing good to me. And I'm going to do it with the hope and the understanding that a relationship can be restored, or maybe said better, can be built. It's a non-offensive thing that we can do. Here's the third thing. A Christian can be respectful to everyone. Right when I got out of high school, maybe I graduated in June, and by August, I got a job working for a law firm where I was what was called a runner. And what a runner did is you took the papers that the law firm had and you ran to the courthouse and you filed those documents. What you did, that's all you did. The documents from the law firm to the courthouse to file them. I got to go into a bunch of courtrooms. And one thing that I saw was disrespect that people had for judges. I mean, here is somebody that can make a big decision on your life and you're going to be disrespectful to them. We need to be respectful to everyone. That doesn't mean we always agree with everyone. That doesn't mean we always think somebody's right. But it doesn't mean we have to be disrespectful to them. One of those things that we can do as a Christian is to extend our respect to others. You're in Romans. Turn forward to the book of James. And go over to James chapter 2, and I'll give you the first couple verses. Beginning in verse 1, it says, my brethren, do not hold the faith of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Lord of glory, with partiality. He says, for if there should come into your assembly a man with gold rings in fine apparel, and there should also come in a poor man in filthy clothes, and you pay attention to the one wearing the fine clothes, and say to him, you sit here in a good place, and say to the poor man, you stand there, or sit here at my footstool. Have you not shown partiality among yourselves and become judges with evil thoughts? You weren't judging good. It was evil intentions. You weren't showing respect to that individual. I like the way you look, but I don't like the way you do. I like the way you talk, but I don't like the way you talk. I like the skin color I am. I don't like the skin color you are. These ways in which we show partiality, these ways in which we show to other people disrespect. It's a non-offensive thing that a Christian can do when he extends to those around him the courtesy of being respectful, addressing somebody by their title. Your Honor, Mr. President, your Congressman. It means doing what you can to present to somebody the understanding that even though, like I said, there may be this difference of opinion, respect still exists. Go over, let me show you what Peter says. Keep turning forward, one book, you're in James. Go over to 1 Peter chapter 2, and notice what Peter says in verse 17. Peter says, honor some people. Now, y'all check me on that if I'm giving you book, chapter, verse. I see you shaking heads back there. Honor all people. He gets specific. Love the brotherhood, fear God, honor the king. Again, that doesn't mean that we may agree with everybody. It may not mean that we see everything alike as individuals, but it does mean that we have to be people who respect others. It's not offensive when you extend to somebody respect. When you extend to them the respect that they are due, you'd want it yourself. So you should extend it to those around you. Here's number 4. These are things that, non-offensive things that we can do. Number 4, a Christian can be forgiving. We don't have to hold the offense. We don't have to be a people who say, I'm going to hold it against you for however long. We don't have to be individuals who go to bed every night angry saying, I don't care what they say. I don't care what they do. I'm never, ever, ever, never, never, ever, ever, never, 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 ever, never going to forgive them. We can be those who extend forgiveness to other people. Let me give you Matthew chapter 18. Matthew chapter 18, and beginning there in verse 21. Then Peter came to him and said, Lord, how often shall my brother sin against me and I forgive him? Up to 7 times? Jesus said to him, I do not say to you up to 7 times, but up to 7 times 7. How often? 70 times 7. Thank you, Kim. How often should I forgive him? Always. Is there a limit to me being a person of forgiveness? No. Now, here's what it doesn't say. You be a doormat. Here's what it doesn't say. Well, you just be foolish and let the same thing keep being done to you over and over again. The verse isn't saying we throw out our knowledge, our understanding, our common sense, and our wisdom. But it does say when we're in a situation in which our brother has offended us, one of the things that we can do is forgive. It doesn't mean what they did is right. Please hear me on that. It doesn't mean what they did is right. It just means that you're willing to move that relationship to a point where you're not going to begin to hold a grudge or something against them because of something that took place. You're in Matthew. Go back a few chapters to chapter 6. Matthew chapter 6. And just one verse, verse 12, where Jesus is teaching them how to pray. And he says, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. Sometimes we have a hard time forgiving because we believe that person's in debt to us. I know the context there, what he's talking about. But let's make the application that sometimes we hold things against others and we're not willing to let it go. We're not willing to forgive them. And we're not willing to let those, whatever the situation is, whatever took place, we're willing to hold it against them and use it time and time again. Sometimes we call it a gunny sack. I'm going to take whatever you did, and I'm gonna forgive you. I'm gonna take what you did, and I'm gonna throw it in the sack behind me. And the next time something happens, here it comes. It comes right back out. But don't you remember when you did? But don't you remember when you said? But don't you remember when you hurt me? And we bring these things up over and over again that we've already extended forgiveness for. Can you imagine going into the presence of God and saying, Father, forgive me for this thing that I've done? And he says, oh, wait a minute. Don't you remember when you did this? I know, but what I'm asking you, Father, is for this thing. Wait. Don't you remember when you did this thing? And don't you remember when you did that thing? How's that forgiveness? How's that forgiveness? We want to be individuals who reach the point where we are going to forgive those who have either harmed us, wronged us. We want to reach a point where we are going to forgive them for the things that may have happened. Here's a fifth thing. A Christian can live their faith in humility. A Christian can live their faith in humility. Sometimes how we live helps others to see Jesus. We talked this morning about Matthew chapter 5, verses 13 through 16. I think it was in Bible class, or maybe it was in this morning's sermon. And we talked about the understanding of how we need to be salt and light. We need to be individuals who have this flavor, this ability to light and to shine on the world around us. And we can do that in a sense of humility. We can do that with the understanding where we say, it's not that I'm better than you. It's that I want all of us to be better. It's not that I think I'm more holier than you. It's that I want all of us to be a people of holiness and to do what we can. Go over to Philippians. Philippians chapter 2, and beginning there in verse 3. Paul says, let nothing be done through selfish ambition or conceit. Doesn't sound like humility, does it? Look at how it's being done. He says, but in lowliness of mind, let each esteem others better than himself. Let each of you look out not only for his own interests, but also for the interests of others. If I were to kind of modernize verses 3 and 4, I'd sum it up with humility, humility, humility. That we need to be individuals who understand that I'm not going to have this selfish ambition, that I'm not going to be one who's filled with conceit, that I'm going to see myself at times in lowliness of mind. That maybe I'm not as big as I think I am. Maybe I don't always have to have the first place. Maybe it always doesn't have to be me. Sometimes it needs to be them, you, others. Maybe sometimes I have to reach the point where I understand I'm not always the center of the universe. That there are other people out there who are just as important as I am, and we treat them accordingly. We treat them with that type of respect where we're willing to humble ourselves so that we can then extend humility to them. I'm not going to think that I'm better. I'm going to think what I can do to help build you up. I'm not going to think that it always has to be my way. What can we do your way this time? How can we be led by what you think this time? How can we be strengthened by what you want to do this time? It's taking that opportunity to take a step back and look at the situation from the standpoint of, do I have to be first in this? This is going to sound odd. As I'm thinking about it, I know it's going to sound odd. In our society, you get a ribbon for coming in first place. Nobody ever grows up and says, I hope I come in second. Nobody ever does that. Everybody grows up thinking, I want to win. I want to be in first place. Sometimes, church, it's okay to be second. Sometimes it's okay to be third or fourth or fifth. It's okay to be a person who says in humility, I want something good for another person. I want them to have the first place. I want them to achieve this goal. I want to help them do this thing, whatever it may be. Being a person of humility is a non-offensive thing that we can do for others. Then let me give you one more. What can we do? Non-offensive things. A Christian can follow the golden rule. A Christian can be good to people who don't like them. A Christian can be respectful to everyone. A Christian can be forgiving. A Christian can live their faith in humility. And a Christian can mention others in their prayers. Now, I have been on the receiving end a time or two when I have said to a person that I was talking to, where I said just, hey, I'm going to pray for you. And offense was immediately taken. I don't need you say you're going to pray for me. I don't believe in that. There's a God. I don't think that anything, and immediately they get offended. That shouldn't prevent me from still praying for them. When I have opportunity and I go into the presence of God, whether it's in the morning, the afternoon, the evening, I don't know, whether it's on my drive home from work, whether it's before I go to bed at night, I have the opportunity to take that individual, to take that situation, and to lift that person up in prayer. I put on your outline, we pray for sinner and saint. What can I do to help? What can I do to strengthen? What can I do to help this person and bring their situation before God? Listen, I say it all the time. God is listening. He hears what you're saying. He hears your prayers. When you go home tonight and you say that prayer, God is hearing it verbatim. He's hearing those words as they come from your lips. Think how important that is. Think how special we are that the Creator of the universe is going to listen to me. Is going to listen to me. And He's going to listen to you. Go over to 1 Timothy chapter 2. 1 Timothy chapter 2. And notice what it says there in verse 1. Paul says, therefore, I exhort first of all that supplications, prayers, intercessions, and giving of thanks be made for all men. There's nothing, even if the person doesn't want you to do it, there's nothing that they can know about my prayers. There's no way that they're going to tap into my mind and know whether or not I'm praying for them. So I can take that opportunity and I can pray for all men. I can go before God. Would you bless this person? Would you help this person? Would you strengthen this person? I pray that you might help change this person's mind. That maybe I can say something or do something to help them come around. Maybe what they're saying is right, Father, and I need to pay more attention to what's being said or the situation at hand. Whatever it is, you go into the presence of God and you mention that individual. You bring their name. The greatest thing that you can do for me this week, other than bring me Bluebell ice cream, the greatest thing that you can do for me this week is to personally mention my name in prayer. To go into the presence of God and say, Donald, I want to talk to you about Donald. What a blessing that is when we can go into the presence of God and we can mention individuals and know that He is hearing those words. A familiar passage to us, 1 Thessalonians 5 and verse 17, depending on what translation you have. One translation says, pray continually. One translation, 2 words. One translation says, pray without ceasing. They're both saying the exact same thing, that prayer needs to be a priority in my life to the point that I always do it. That it's a part of who I am. It's a part of my daily life. It's a part of the fabric of me of being a Christian. That I'm somebody who's going to go into the presence of God and pray to Him. Take those needs. Take those situations. Take those individuals. Take those doubts. Take those certainties. Take those blessings. Take those things that we're struggling with. Take them all into the presence of God and say, I'm giving them to you, Father. I'm giving them to you. Taking somebody's name to God in prayer is probably the best thing that you can do for somebody. Probably the best thing that you can do for somebody. Father, here's their name. You know their situation. Would you bless them? Would you help them? Who do you pray for? It's a non-offensive thing that we can do as Christians, is to pray for others. I mentioned down there at the end of your outline under the conclusion, in our goal to reach people with the gospel, we need to be wise in how we do it. And I certainly understand at times when we share the gospel, regardless of how we say it, how polite we are, how kind we are, regardless of how we say it, people can become offended. I get it. It's just something that we have to do. It's just a chance that we have to take. I've sat with people in Chick-fil-A not knowing how they were going to respond when I said, hey, can I talk to you about the Lord's church? I don't know how they're going to respond. So there's times when we don't know if they're going to be offended by what we say, but we have to be a people who step out in faith and do what we can to bring the gospel to all those around us. If we're not proclaimers, who's going to proclaim? If we're not evangelists, who's going to evangelize? Now, there are certainly these non-offensive things that we can do, that we can give ourselves over to. I don't think one of them is a negative. There's 6 of them there. I don't think one of them is negative. They're all positive. Therefore, I think we should do them, church. I think we should give ourselves over to these things. I think we should grow in our ability to do these. Add however many more you want to add to the list. But I think these things help us think in the right direction and help us understand that we have a wonderful responsibility in which we can have an impact on the lives of those around us. In a world that's easily offended, how we can have an impact. Oh, I saw a thing. I saw a thing this week, before I forget, about a guy who was at a football game, and he was at a home football game for I can't remember what team it is, say the Dallas Cowboys. He was at their field, and he was wearing a Washington Redskins jersey. Of course, he shouldn't do that. No, he was wearing, and they beat up on him. They were offended because of the jersey he was wearing to a sporting event. I understand that those people are going to be out there. You understand that those people are going to be out there, but we shouldn't let us deter us. We shouldn't be afraid to be a people of faith, to do what we can to stand strong for the cause of Christ. There are some non-offensive things that you can do that are pretty powerful. It's just a matter of, are we willing to do them or not? I hope we are. Let me extend to you the invitation this evening. If you're here and you have a need, we'd love to pray with you. If there's a situation that you're going through and we can help you with it, we'd love to stand by your side and help you through that difficulty, whatever it may be. If we have any here tonight who are not members of the Lord's church, if we have any who are watching this video online and you're not a member of the Lord's church, I present the gospel plan of salvation to hear, believe, repent, confess, and to be baptized. God's saving plan for man. If you need more instruction on that, be glad to teach you. Let's stand as we sing.